Welcome to another episode, 8 a.m. Eastern time version of Props to Consider and Then Maybe Bet. I am your host. I am the paragon of virtue. I am still Lou Betcha, despite what Twitter will tell you. And I'm joined this week for UFC 298 by somebody that another long overdue show. One of my favorite people to chop it up with in the spaces, the king of Narrative Nation, my guy, George Gennaro. George, from across the world. How are you doing?
Lou Betcha. It's great to see you, brother. I mean, I thought you were in exile. I thought you were in Twitter jail.
Rumors of my demise have been greatly exaggerated.
It's nice to see you have internet access wherever you are.
Thank you.
And you know, I tried. We're trying. The Twitter community, the MMA Twitter community is trying to get you out of Twitter exile. Okay. You were trending for a brief moment. Free Lou Betcha was trending. So
I just hope that with the multitude of ball shots that happened last week on the UFC card that I was in everybody's mind. Obviously, I probably would have lost my account during the card for all the blatant glee I would have had watching the Marcos fight. But we got a nice offering this week for this pay-per-view. A lot of newcomers, pretty good main card. Are you excited for it? You have some spots you like, just from a betting perspective. Forget about props. Just from a betting perspective, like, what do you think?
All of the above. At the beginning, I wasn't too hyped about this card. 298. The prelims are sketchy. I will say the prelims are sketchy, but I'm starting to really warm up to the main card. And there's one prelim fight that I really like. So I think it's going to be, my only concern is we only have 12 fights. And my thing is we should always, the UFC, I would love for them to always schedule at least 14. I think one or two fights got dropped out or dropped off, but there are fights I like. There are money lines I like. There are props I like. So whenever you're ready, Lou.
All right. Well, we got 7 live viewers, which is 6 more than I thought we would have at 8 a.m. But if you are watching right now, thank you very much for spending your time with us. We got Professor Chaos in the chat. I saw Monk post something earlier. I will be talking to him at midnight Eastern tonight to break down the whole card from a DFS and betting perspective. Got my guy Just Win Baby in the chat. Moyes Audio. My guy Malin, he's got all the locks. M. Bay is here. And Steve Gregory, yes. That's why I woke up an hour ago to make sure that I was screen ready for all you people. But and he says, thank God we don't have, well, interesting fight, that Hermanson fight. Kind of play. I don't know if you had a bet on that fight. I laid off it. I didn't really like.
I did.
Like a lot of. Did you have Hermanson?
I bought the Joe Pyfer, the Joe Pyfer, narrative, hook, line, and sinker. But I was ready. Luckily, the live betting lines were open. I was ready to fire, and that bailed me out.
Good.
But it was one of those situations where we might be dealing with a similar narrative on this title fight, which we will get to later.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into it. If you're just watching the show, we're going to get, for the first time, thank you. Hit the like button. Please subscribe. We're going to do 4 fights that aren't the main event. Do some props from that. Main event, breakdown with the props. Finish with a Yam Bag special, and that'll be it. So, George, take us away. What is the first prop to consider for your UFC 298 betting sheet?
My first prop to consider is the prelim fight that I'm really excited about, which is Amanda Lemos versus Mackenzie Dern. Looking at the props, there's one prop that really stood out, that really jumped off the page at me, and that is Amanda Lemos by sub at plus 2,000, which I think is a crazy number. I think it opened at plus 1,600. It's only gotten wider since then. And having taped her last fight, she's got 4 submission attempts in her last 3 or 4 fights. She had 2 submission attempts against Weili Zhang in that first round, where she was dominated, but she was still throwing up darces from bottom. And with like 4 seconds left in the first round, she was about to get slammed, and she was still hunting for Weili's neck. So that's the kind of perseverance that I like if I'm betting a sub prop. And I think her submission, her grappling and her submission has really been, people crapped on it. People have been crapping on it ever since the Jessica Andrade fight. But it looks to me like she's improving just based on that one fight. And Mackenzie Dern, her game plan is to try to get this to the mat. There are going to be grappling exchanges. At one point or another, either Mackenzie Dern is getting dropped or she will be taking down Amanda Lemos. So someone, either Dern will be on her back, about to get pounded out, and maybe gives up her back for an RNC, maybe she gets cracked and shoots a lazy, a desperation takedown into a guillotine. We've seen Amanda Lemos can get those guillotines. She has the power and the technique to do it. And the plus 2,000 is just crazy. Now, you can also play the Mackenzie Dern sub, but I think that might be a little too square for me. I would rather play fight ends and sub. If your book has fight ends and sub, like I just checked on DraftKings, the difference between fight ends and sub and Mackenzie Dern sub is like 15 points. It's not worth it. Bet. I've got two choices. I'm probably going to bet both. I already bet the Amanda Lemos sub at plus 1,600, and I got reverse CLV, so I might add a little more. And to cover myself, I will also bet the fight ends in sub. There are a lot of interesting narratives on the Mackenzie Dern side, like her camp situation, for example. Like, where is she training? Does she have a legit, stable training camp situation? She's training in Huntington Beach, some gym I've never heard of that I'm not familiar with. To my knowledge, no UFC fighters train there. And she's back with Perillo. But
not really.
But not going to be in his corner, which is really weird. And her taking this fight on short notice screams to me that, I mean, this is an extremely dangerous fight, and you just got rocked by Jessica Andrade. What do you think Amanda Lemos is going to do to you? I think Mackenzie Dern needs the money. Seems to me it's pretty obvious she needs the money. I believe she's still paying alimony. Her alimony is like $4,000 a month, to the point where she can't afford a real gym. She can't afford to have her striking coach in her corner. I think she will be shooting desperation takedowns the first second she gets cracked. And I love the Amanda Lemos by sub at plus 2,000.
I don't know how I could add more to that, because one of my props is just Lemos in the distance. It's actually one of my favorite bets on the card. I mean, I don't know, like, you covered it all, George. All I'll add is, again, for me, it's like a system play. If I see somebody coming off getting knocked out, who's taking a quick turnaround, less than 6 months.
Yeah.
And for a lot of the reasons you said, they're not conducive to kind of raising up the ladder here toward a title shot. This is just a cash grab. There's a lot that I like about the Lemos side here. I never have liked Dern's takedowns. I don't know if she's not improving on them. It seems like she's working on her striking more than anything else. And she's
improving in one area, though.
What's that?
She's filling out. I mean, have you seen her traps and her shoulders? So if ever her takedown offense, her offensive grappling is going to improve, it might be now.
So I think the KO is probably more live, but to your point, in the distance in the KOs, I think it's a 20-point difference. So it's definitely not worth it to me. If you're going to bet any side of it, I do like the sub. I think Dern can shoot a sloppy takedown. I think she can get caught. I think Lemos has a bunch of ways to win. And for these people that think Dern gets one takedown, the fight's over. No, Lemos is certainly confident on the ground. Like you said, don't let the Andrade fight fool you. Like, that's something you can work on. She got caught by a very experienced, legendary champion. Yes. Not a great look, but it happens. So
Mina Bay is going to love to hear that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go to my next prop, so I'm just going to keep this up here since we both had Lemos. I'm going to move on. I don't have a number yet, but I'm going to guess it's plus 350, plus 400. I'm going to play Andrea Lee Maverick to end in a split decision. This is another kind of easy click for me. I think I don't want to call this a binary fight, but I think Lee's going to win the striking exchanges. Maverick's going to be tenacious, going for takedowns. Lee doesn't hit hard enough. I mean, Calvillo fight aside, she's not typically hitting hard enough to win huge optics. Maverick still has some power. She's still 27. She's still in prime physical condition and still going to make improvements. Maverick will be going for takedowns. I'm sure she's not going to get 0 for 9 on takedown. She's going to have some success. She's going to win some top time. I don't know that she does a ton of damage on top either. So I see this is going the distance at a pretty high clip. Maverick winning some minutes on the ground. Lee winning some minutes on her feet. Plus 350, plus 400 range would be my guess for split, which means you're probably getting about, 650 for Maverick, 800 for Lee. I'm just guessing here. We don't have a number yet, but it feels pretty simple to me to bet this. I know people like the Lee side big this week, and I get it, but she's another one where the judges don't really love her optics. And you feel like Maverick still is owed from that Macy Barber split, where her career is kind of, I don't know that she mentally recovered from losing that fight. I feel like it's almost adversely affected her progression. So I don't want to pick the side here because Maverick, to me, she really doesn't do enough on the feet for me to want to have confidence in her. She's not great at top control. Lee's get-up game isn't bad. So for me, I love the split decision here.
Yeah, and that's now I have to. I already bet it, but now I think I'm going to add to it because I just doing the math. Andre Ali's been in 5 splits. I haven't counted the Maverick side, but that alone, and it's this clash of styles where it's you get a WMMA clash of styles. It's almost always a good recipe for a split. So I would probably, if this were in the Apex, I would favor Maverick by split because it seems like in the Apex this year they're favoring control. It seems like they're leaning in the direction of control. But judges in California, I don't know who the judges are going to be. I don't know what impact the crowd is going to have on the fight. So I would rather just play it right down the middle with fight ends and split at plus 350. I like it.
All
But
right.
why don't you have this? What books are you dealing with?
Like DraftKings doesn't have it up yet.
Oh, all right.
So that's typically, I mean, not every book offers it, but, and I know that my other book, Bet Parks, is starting to put these up. So it should be up today. I'm just, like I said, I'm guessing what it's going to be. It seems like about the right number for a woman's fight.
I'm checking Bet Online. Oh, Bet Online's got it even higher at plus 400. So I like that.
There you go. Easy click for me. But what is your second prop to consider that you have on this card, sir?
Easy peasy. Let's see. We are on. Speaking of subs, I don't know if Aussie Fight Fan is in the house, but he and I we are the co-founders of the Gary by Sub Foundation. Okay. We are donating. We are donating again, but hear me out. Hear me out. He's been rolling with Charles freaking Oliveira. He did an entire camp at Shoot the Box, which is now his sanctuary. The only gym, the last gym on earth that will accept Ian Gary is Shoot the Box. What better way for him to show his gratitude to Charles, the Saint Oliveira, and the Shoot the Box boys, and Diego Lima by dropping Jeff Neal, jumping into his guard, which is what he should have done against Neil Magny, and finishing a concussed Jeff Neal. Now, the great number is gone. It opened on DK like at plus 1,800. I played it on Bet Online, I think at plus 800, but that's my call. We want a nice wide Rolex prop, Lambo prop, Ian Gary by sub. I'm going to donate until he's either defending the belt or he finally gets that sub. But I like Ian Gary by sub, and I like him to. We've seen Jeff Neal got submitted from a standing RNC. That's what happens when you're badly beat, when you're badly concussed. And I think Ian Gary hasn't beat in terms. And I don't like this. I would love to see Ian Gary get knocked the fuck out. Okay, excuse the language. I would love to see it, but I don't think Jeff Neal is the guy.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight for me because I don't love all the camp changes from Gary, but I like this one. I think this is a good fit for him. Look, man, I like Jeff Neal. I don't like Ian Gary, like the outside of the cage stuff. Watching him, thank you, Tajik. I appreciate the support. I'll be back. I have plans. Don't worry. I'll talk about it. I got some ideas tonight, but this fight's like, I feel like Ian Gary's gonna probably win every minute until he doesn't. Like Jeff Neal, I don't know that he has a lot of decision equity here. I think, Ian Gary's still very hittable. If he's got if he's got two weaknesses, that he's still hittable and that he doesn't have that like killer instinct to go for finishes like you saw with Magny. I mean, within 10 seconds of that fight, he had him compromised and just kind of wasn't willing to go for a finish. I feel that, to your point, him being at Shooter Box, this is going to be a way more aggressive version of him. I do think the takedowns can be there. We keep hearing that his grappling is good, and he'd be smart to get this fight off the feet, like very smart, because I don't know how Jeff Neal wins in any kind of grappling exchanges here. So I like the look a lot. So I'm going to pivot to a different prop because Mellon stole it in the chat. I like the DeLima sub 1 as well, a 10-1. I think that, and I don't want to say that DeLima is going to fight smart. I never want to make that assumption. That's not a good way to make money. But I do think he has a very clear path here to just either use the leg kicks and compromise Tafa or take him down, where I think he should have a significant advantage, especially if he has top time going for subs. We don't really know what Tafa looks like off his back. I'm going to make an educated guess. It's not good. And DeLima, still very experienced. Look, DeLima's problem is as the fight goes on, he doesn't handle adversity well. I don't love his cardio. Yeah, he can get tagged early like he did against Lewis, but I think he goes for a takedown here. And it might only take one. So I think at 10-1 for the DeLima sub. It's a look that I like. But I don't really have much more to add to that. I don't want to spend all my morning talking about DeLima and Tafa, other than I just think the 10-1's a good look. Okay. I even thought about doing kind of like a Tafa KO2 prop there, but what does this fight, George? What does this fight look like if it hits the second round? Does it look like Blagoy DeLima at that point? Does it look like sloppy and ugly and nobody wants to exchange? What do you think?
It looks like we'll be in spaces or we'll be in Discord talking amongst ourselves and watching the fight with one eye while we start talking about the next fight and what bets and how our round one submission prop didn't cash. And yeah, it's going to be an ugly fight. For me, it's a total pass. I cannot trust DeLima at chalk, and Tafa. I can't trust any of the Aussies making this long journey across the planet to fight a low-level, a sloppy, low-level heavyweight fight. So to me, the fight's a total pass. But I like your 10-1 on the sub. Lima has a clear grappling advantage, and maybe after getting his teeth knocked out, he's going to say, you know what, let's make this as easy as possible. And he finds a trip. Tafa falls on himself, and there you cash a 10-1.
For the record, George, I'm still waiting for my Parker Porter round 2 submission hit. You're on the Gary sub train.
I'm a long time, my friend.
Sean Orr and I are still on. Look, I figure if I keep betting it, eventually one day he's going to face somebody on the regionals and who will survive the bell, and then he'll just wrap him up.
On the regionals, you're going to need Bet Online to bet a regional. So
I'm trying to remember I think it was the Alan Badeau fight where I'm like, this fucker better do it. This motherfucker better wrap up.
He's on it. It was a community bet, man. That was a community bet. He let us all down.
The problem is it was a community bet that wasn't endorsed by Pepe Selvia. If Pepe endorses a round 2 submission,
Pepe has said round 2 sub,
unload the roll. If he says round 2
empty
submission,
the tank. I totally agree, man.
Tim Troiano is the king of splits. Pepe is the king of the round 2 sub.
Did you get Tim's blessing on this fight ends in split for Lee versus Maverick?
No, I don't need Tim's blessing for a split decision. I'm sure Tim's going to bet it. When Tim and I are aligned on a split, I always feel really good about it.
Same here.
And to give Tim credit,
guess what?
Always bet both sides as well. If you're going to bet the split, you bet both sides as well. Cover your bets.
Yeah, and guess what? I think splits are back. I mean, last year they were down. They 18% of the decisions ended in split. It went from 23% down to 18. I think they're back. I think we've gotten an above average number of splits this year. So
especially on a pay-per-view outside of Vegas where the judging gets really, really wonky. And
that's true. Canada, for example. Canada. Oof.
I'm leaving this up here because this is the gift that keeps on giving. The RoboCop. I'm gonna grapple, I swear. So
let's go.
We got my guy Big Steve.
We need
that's definitely not a quote. That's definitely not something I wrote.
How about this? RoboCop and Gary on a future pay-per-view together, and we will parlay those subs and cash a massive ticket. So, what do you think about the next fight? What do you have?
DeLima sub was me, so we are on you for your third prop of this card.
All right, let's see. All right, it's time.
You want to hit this one since Mbaye?
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I'm looking at it, and you know what? Sometimes you just gotta say, "To hell with it." Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker, what they co-main, right? Co-main. The question, to quote DFS by the numbers, to paraphrase DFS by the numbers, is Robert Whittaker washed?
To quote him, you have to say, is he a bum?
Oh, is he a bum? Okay, thank you. Is he a bum? I'm sorry. Is he a bum? Is Robert Whittaker a bum? And at Paulo Costa by points at plus 500, I'm willing to find out. I like Paulo Costa this week. I know I'm on an island. Okay, my guy Brian, who does a spreadsheet, like collects all the cappers picks. So far, he's put 12 cappers into the spreadsheet. It's 11 on Robert Whittaker and 1 on Paulo Costa. I understand. I get it. I understand why people want to fade Paulo Costa. He fights like once every other year. He pulls out of fights, but he's shown up. He actually made it to Anaheim. He actually made it to Media Day in great shape. This is post USADA Paulo Costa. He's looking in great shape. And I believe this is the last fight on his contract. The one thing that can get Paulo Costa back into that octagon is an opportunity at what he's always wanted, for what he's been trying to get for the last 2 years, is to get paid. This is how you get paid, Paulo. You finish now. I'm going to say that Paulo Costa is more of a volume striker. Robert Whittaker has recovered. Let's say he's recovered from the DDP beatdown. I'm going to go with the Paulo Costa by points at plus 500. But this is Paulo Costa's chance to get that bag that he's been trying to get for the last 2 years. And you do that by beating Robert Whittaker, and then you become an unrestricted free agent where you can fight YouTubers, you can fight BKFC, you're a free agent, and you can set yourself up for a fight against DDP, which I think would be a great fight. As a free agent, you can finally get paid. Now, and then let's go to the Robert Whittaker narrative side. He's giving me these vibes where if I'm laying chalk, these are not the things I want to hear from Robert Whittaker. Well, I think I'm still better than DDP. What? Bro, did you not watch that fight? Did you not watch that beatdown? Did you not watch how you got taken down and then beat up? And then that was just a horrible look. And also, I like fading his narratives where everybody was on one side. Everyone was everyone except Tajik Bey and a few were confidently on Robert Whittaker. Well, that confidence is back, but why? What has Robert Whittaker done to regain your confidence, to regain anyone's confidence in him? Well, Paulo Costa is giving me signs that, you know what, he's in great shape. I believe this is the last fight of his contract. And he said yes to a Hamzat fight when Hamzat was still like the boogeyman of the division. He's one of the few guys to actually say yes to a Hamzat fight. And he trained for a Hamzat fight, which is why I also like the Paulo Costa by sub at plus 1,800. His jiu-jitsu, we've never really seen it, but would it surprise me? Would it have surprised you if DDP had subbed the Robert Whittaker after taking him down? No. If he had another 30 seconds in that first round, would it have surprised you if DDP had subbed Robert Whittaker? No. So I can definitely see Paulo Costa doing the same. But for now, I'll go with Paulo Costa by points at plus 500.
I like it. We'll talk about a bet I have on that a little later in the show. But yeah, I think Whittaker, I think this number is pretty wide. I've seen as high as 250 on some books, minus 250. And yeah, for me, I don't like that here, especially when I think Whittaker's win equity is his volume-based decision. I think if anybody has fit, because Costa's pretty durable. I think people are overlooking. I like the Costa points. I think people are looking at the Rockhold fight like, oh, well, if he couldn't finish Rockhold. Hey, man, look, every fight's different. And it's not like he didn't land bombs on Rockhold. Like, Rockhold, I thought, showed some decent durability in that fight. And then they got exhausted. I mean, and that's the worry if you're on the Costa side. That's the worry. Yeah, right. The altitude. I guess that would be the worry from the Costa side. Like, will he fade late in the fight? But historically, he hasn't. Historically, his cardio has been okay for how much muscle he has. So, Whittaker's cardio has always been good. So, look, if Costa dominates the first 2 rounds, I don't know. I don't see Whittaker putting him away in the third. So, I love the play. I don't know that I get there pre-fight or pre-card. I may do it as the card goes on, like a little heat check if I'm running hot. Okay. But I like it. That's going to be a funny fight. So, all right, let me get to my last prop. You talked about how you're on an island with Costa. Well, I'm not on a complete island here because I know at least Big Steve and I, probably the only 2 people that are going to play this. I'm on the Kopylov side. I know the community is like on Fluffy, and I get it. But, I mean, how do you, like, even if you like the Fluffy side here, which I get, because it feels like a relatively binary fight, Kopylov round 2 KO. He's like a mythical bet at this point. Like, that's just what he does. I don't know that Hernandez is going to be busting him up on the feet. I do think Koplov's vulnerable a little bit with his striking defense, but where is Fluffy vulnerable? And I know everybody has said this. He's vulnerable to the body. Koplov's kicks are just absolutely insane. He's vicious. Look, he's beating not the greatest guys on this winning streak, but it's not like his striking and his power is an improvement. Like, he's made good adjustments, like, to his camps. Like, he's clearly working on the grappling end of things. And I don't know. There's a lot I like about what I've seen from Kopylov striking here. If it stays on the feet for any kind of extended period, if he stuffs a takedown, I think Kopylov's going to win all those minutes. I just, at 1050, plus 1050, even if you like the fluffy side, I still think the Kopylov round 2K is worth a poke. So I don't know what you have on that fight.
That is a counter. That's a counter narrative, because the people picking Kopylov are like round 1 Kopylov, and then Fluffy takes over and grinds on him. And so, we've got Big Steve in the house. Fluffy's only half Mexican.
he said it's midnight for him and he was tired. I'm like,
just half a.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my play on that. I'm not going to, I mean, look, if Fluffy gets a takedown, you know, people keep talking about like the Duraev fight and like how he got dominated on the ground. And I get that. He still had good moments against Duraev in that fight. So we'll see, man. I mean, we'll see if Kopylov's cardio holds up. To be honest, it's looked okay, but this is a whole different fight. And I understand that. Like, and if you're on the fluffy side, I get it. But I also think this line is just blown up way too wide, where a money line play on Fluffy is just, I don't know. I don't love him at this number. What do you got for your the final fight? I know that the chat's been popping about Merab Henry.
Yes.
And I know that you have that.
So give the chat what they want. We have to give the chat what they want.
Got to give the people what they want.
You give the people what they want. All right. There are a lot of narratives on this fight. We've got is he retired? Is he not retired? Is he going to retire, not retire on Henry Cejudo? The real firing, the fake firing of his coach. I'll start there. I wish he had just kept the coach fired. Give me a guy who's saying, you know what? I want to win so bad. I'm willing to fire my best friend on live TV for the whole world to see, just to prove to myself and to everyone else, this is how committed I am to winning this fight. And then I don't know if he got pressured or if it was all part of a gag, but it's all probably noise. Let's talk some recency bias. Merab's last fight, it seemed like everyone, with the exception of Tajik Bey and a few others, it seemed like everyone was confidently on Peter Yan, giving Merab no chance whatsoever. Well, fast forward to today, and it seems like everyone, that exact same amount of confidence is on Merab this time. Well, guess what? I'm on the Henry side. I do not buy into the retirement talk. And if he loses to Merab, yes, he should retire, because what's left for him? So to me, that's just smart business. That's just smart career management. You lose to Merab, yes, it's over. What's he going to do? Stick around and fight give some young up-and-coming prospect in the division some shine? No. But if he wins, this is his chance to get that title back. And I think if this stays on the feet, I'm not convinced that Merab is going to get all these takedowns on a great wrestler. Yeah, he's 37 years old, but he's still a young 37 years old. So you want some props? I'll give you some props. Round 3, Henry Cejudo at plus 1,600. Okay, that's a Rolex prop. You want a Lambo prop? I'll give you round 3, Henry Cejudo by submission at plus 5,000.
Oh, baby. I love it.
Because the points, his points aren't that much better than his money line. So if you're going to play points, just play the money line. But I will play some round 3. Because guess what? Henry Cejudo won round 5 versus the then champ. And if it wasn't for one judge, screwing up that round 5 scorecard, please correct me if I'm wrong, Lou. If it wasn't for one judge screwing up that round 5 scorecard, because that should have been a unanimous round 5 for Henry Cejudo, but one judge scored it for Aljo. What if that one judge had scored that round 5 correctly? What would the line be then? Henry as the defending champ versus Merab the contender. What would the line be? The line would be flipped. I think the line would be flipped. Henry as defending champ, the line would be flipped. And then Merab, I'm not convinced that he's got this championship mentality. For the longest time, he didn't want to fight for the belt. Remember? Oh, because my friend Aljo, my friend. And then when Sean finally won the belt and beat Aljo, what did Merab say? Oh, give my friend the rematch. Give my friend the rematch. What are you talking about? This is your chance, bro. This is your chance. So I have a hard time backing a guy who shows me signs that maybe his eyes are not on the prize. And you give me a great Olympian champion, a great Olympian champion like Henry Cejudo at nice plus number, and I know he can keep his cardio going. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a completely different fight. Merab's going to shoot 500 takedowns, 500 failed takedowns, but I still like the Henry Cejudo side.
All right, man. I have no bet on that fight, and I'm just going to sit back and watch. I would say that it's funny for me because I look at this number and you look at Cejudo at almost plus 190 and you're like, one of the best to ever do it at the weight class at plus 190. Yeah, he's 37, but to your point, he's not like a shop worn. He doesn't feel like a shop 137. I had a bet on him against Sterling. I thought he won live. I thought he won 32. I went back and watched it. I still think you can make a case either way. I think it was a super close fight, but yeah, he looked good in the 5th round. His cardio wasn't an issue. Yeah, I don't think I want any part of this. I think Merab, if he does get his takedowns going, he could look like there's a path where Merab looks like minus 500 in this fight. But I do think if it stays on the feet, I actually was going to look at the Henry KO, but I think I'm just laying off that one completely. But I love the look, and chat, that is definitely like the fight that chat cared about. But that covers our card props. Now we're going to get to the main event, Volkanovski and Topuria. By the way, we have over 30 live viewers for an 8 a.m. show. Thank you guys so much. That's awesome. Obviously not been a great banner week for Dr. Betcha, so love to see it. And thank you to George for taking time out of his busy schedule.
Minabay, I don't know if you saw Minabay's comment, but we've seen some older fighters. We were sleeping on Jack Hermanson. And Neil Magny and a bunch of others. So I'm telling you, the rules have changed, man, with the supplements that these guys are taking and the full-time training and the specialized trainers that they have for this, for cardio and for weights and for flexibility and on top of the nutrition. We'll talk about nutrition when we get to the main event. So I'm ready when you are, brother.
Well, we were at the main event. Nice title fight between Volkanovski and Topuria. I will let you start this one off as the guest. Who do you got and how do you see it going?
Man, talk about a fight chock full of narratives. This fight alone could just carry Narrative Nation for a month. I'm torn. I'm really, really torn between the great defending champ, arguably the best to ever do it in the division, versus the young, ascending, rising potential superstar in Ilia Topuria. When this fight first got announced, I jumped on the Ilia Topuria money line. I believe it was like plus 165. I think he opened at plus 65, 145 to 165. I jumped on that. I'm like, this is a gift. This is the standard, typical, just archetype of the young, rising, undefeated future star versus the aging lion on his way out. I was confident. But ever since then, Ilia has been giving me all these signs that have me like, uh-oh. He has taken trash talk to a never before seen level. And he is like practically spitting in the face of traditions. Like, you're not supposed to touch the belt before you win the belt. And here he is posing with the belt. I remember there was a picture of Ilia on his Instagram holding the belt. David Dean, who I do spaces with, asked me, is that Photoshop? We couldn't believe it. And I looked, I'm like, no, that looks like a real picture. And he fast forward to today, and he's like doing a photo shoot during fight week with the belt. And the stuff, the trash talk that he's saying about Volk, I'm going to treat him like a punching bag, first round KO. I mean, he's being just extremely brash or extremely disrespectful, or his trash talk is to another level. And I don't buy the Conor McGregor, because the Conor McGregor comparisons, I don't buy them because that was a different time, different sport, different country, different accent, different background, different time and place where the UFC needed a Conor. Today, if Ilya wins or Volk wins, the UFC is still printing cash, is still hotly in demand all around the world. You're going to compare the Irish fan base, the UK fan base to what Spain is offering right now. You're going to offer, it's just like different place and different time. So, and Conor didn't do a photo shoot with the belt during fight week. He tried to steal the belt during a press conference. That's different. Okay. So a part of me wants to say, you know what? Ilya is begging to be humbled, and the MMA gods love to humble. Look at Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer was talking a big trash talk game. I'm much better than him. Jack is old. He's on his way out. And what happened? He got humbled. So would it surprise me to see Ilya get humbled? But then I listened to his press conference, his media day. Oh my God. If he doesn't become future champion, if he doesn't become a champion, he has a very lucrative career. Shout out to lucrative. He has a lucrative career as a motivational speaker. Oh my God, his trash talk is next level in Spanish. Luckily, thankfully, thanks mom and dad, I can speak Spanish and I understand. The translator, unfortunately, was not doing a good job. It's not easy, right? It's not easy to translate on the fly. His trash talk is next level. He's got me convinced. He's got me so convinced. You know what? I'm going to give you 2 props. I got to give you 2 props. The first prop is Ilya Topuria round 1 KO. He's got me convinced. Plus 1,100. And if the MMA gods do decide to humble the boy, do decide to humble him, you know, it's a great live betting opportunity. So I'll be looking at Volk. I might also bet Volk by points. But yeah, I just think that this is a classic passing of the torch. And I want to root for Ilya. It's just his personality, his arrogance. It's just a little too much sometimes. And I want to root for him because I want the sport to grow. I want to see UFC Spain. I want to see Ilya defend versus Yair. But if Ilya loses, you know what the UFC is going to do. It's like, oh, Spain? Did we say Spain? No, we're going to go to London again because there we can sell out an arena, no problem. But you as the, I mean, they don't, how many Spanish fighters are on the roster? Like 2 or 3? They need Ilya to win. If he wins, okay, you can make an Ilya versus Yair title defense in Spain. So I am rooting. A big part of me is rooting for Ilya, but a part of me is also rooting for Volk to humble him. So I will take the Ilya round 1 KO. I think he's front loaded, and then Volk takes over. We'll see. What do you have?
I saw plus 1,300 for that Ilya round 1 KO in my book. Shop around for that. Yeah. So, and I have no bets on this yet, but I have to lean for the Volkanovski decision at plus 260 range. I'm not going to do a huge breakdown of that fight right now. You covered a lot of what I liked. You're giving me a guy whose chin at 145 has never been a problem. He's been knocked out at 155 and he's been knocked out at 170, 11 years ago. His chin's always looked solid at 145. I think he can mix in the grappling if he wants. As much as I like Topuria's skill set, there's 2 things that really hold me back from him. One is the strength of schedule. I mean, Jai Herbert stinks. This is not a news flash. This isn't a hot take. Jai Herbert stinks and he had a lot of success. I believe that was up a weight class, but still had a lot of success with the striking against Topuria. Bryce Mitchell stinks and is showing that he doesn't have any striking defense at all. Josh Emmett, that was a great win for Topuria. I take nothing away from that. Emmett's a tough dude. Could have stopped that fight a couple of times. Looked great doing it. I just don't know how he's going to look when he's getting extended in this fight and Volk's pouring on volume late in the fight, working the body. Look, Volk's not some amazing finisher either. Yes, he's had finishes. His finishes are more attritional. I have a rule. If I have an undefeated fighter, I don't like betting in the distance props against them. We have to see what Topuria looks like when he's in the deep waters. You just never know a guy's resolve late. Maybe he has that toughness. Maybe he's just eating all these body shots and he survives to the bell. But you're giving me the sitting champion, who I think is the best to do it at 145. You're giving me him by points at plus 260. I like the bet. I don't really love betting main event decision props, just because then I'm sitting there for 25 minutes being like, do stuff, but not too much.
Yeah.
But I do think as this fight goes longer, I agree with you that I think Ilya is more front loaded here. I don't see him getting a late finish, but we shall see. It's a great fight, and I'm looking forward to it. But Volk decision plus 260 range.
I can see Ilya with a big adrenaline dump too.
Yeah, well,
because he is putting a lot of pressure on himself, bro, to the point where he's either going to be deified or crucified. Because I have a folder full of memes ready to go. If Volk knocks him out, if Volk finishes him, if Volk dominates him, I have a full folder. You know, I like to make my memes. The memes are ready to go, but I still think it's a passing of the torch, and it also sets up perfectly. Look, I'm also tempted to play fight ends and split. One of my favorite auto bets is when a fight is highly contested, like where the sharpest minds in the game are going back and forth, like on this main event. I hear sharp takes on the Volk side. I've heard sharp takes on the Ilya side. Well, that tells me just play the split and step aside, right? Just split it down the middle. So I'm also tempted to play the split, but for now I will stick with the Ilya round 1 KO, and I will shop around for the best price.
I love it. And it's a really big number too. So I love it. I see a path for it for sure. I may just sit back and watch, but I'm very excited for this fight. But we are at the end and my favorite part of the show. We're at the Yam Bag special, people. This is your first time watching. Number one, shame on you. And number two, we're picking the fight that we think is going to have a point deduction. Now, last week, I don't believe we had any point deduction, but man, the shots to the sack were flowing. Open with 3 and 2 minutes in the first fight for a no contest. I know Rich gave Marcos as his mush of the week.
Yeah.
Was he winning? Yes. Should Rich count that as a win because it's no contest? Absolutely. Just like
I counted. And a different ref calls that a DQ, and then mush cashes. So
I know what yours is because we talked about it right before the show.
No, I just changed my mind. So please, you want to start? Okay.
Sure.
Or you want me to start?
I'll start because mine's going to take 20 seconds.
Sure.
Right, so VB, I looked at this, but I don't know how long that fight's going to go. So I'm going to pick the fight that may not even happen, but typically when I cap these things, Wheezy and I at the Yam Bag Institute, one of our rules is we like Southpaw versus Orthodox, especially when we think it's going to be a protracted 15-minute striking fight. I had one on my list that was just mentioned in chat, but trumping the Southpaw versus Orthodox narrative, George, is any fight that has Paulo Costa feels like a fight that I have to bet the point deduction. I know it's not Southpaw Orthodox, but it should be on the feet. I think it goes the distance at a pretty high clip. And we've seen Costa like intentionally eye poke people when he gets tired, like just to buy himself time. He's like he's kind of just a weird meme fighter. And if I get a weird meme fighter, I'm compelled to bet the point deduction. But there were 2 others that I really liked. If you don't give out one, I'll say what the other one was at the end. But yeah, it's a fight that has Paulo Costa. I'm betting a Paulo Costa Yam Bag. That's simple.
I was tempted by the Paulo Costa because he did get a point deducted against Marvin Vettori. Remember the Marvin Vettori point deduction? Jason Herzog. But I think I'm hoping we get a serious Paulo Costa. And we know Robert Whittaker is a choir boy. He's never going to do anything that gets a point deduction. I'll give you one. You know what? A narrative I like for point deductions? The potential for a stunt. Now Paulo Costa, yes. He is a potential stunt waiting to happen. But there's another potential stunt I like waiting to happen, and that's Oban Elliott. The Oban Elliott Val Woodburn fight. I can see a stunt. I can see Oban Elliott pulling a stunt in that fight, grabbing the cage, nut shot, eye poke. I think all are, because I caught several of his interviews, and oh man, he is quite the listen. So he gives me stunt pulling vibes this week. So give me that fight to have the to be a Yam Bag, my Yam Bag special. And normally you bet them on DK. They're always on DK. It's like plus 2,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only ever been 2 where it wasn't. And one of them was Greg Hardy against Topuria. It was like plus 1,800 or something.
Okay.
And I
That's
think that was
wild.
the fight after the inhaler. And he just didn't last long enough to cheat. But
Okay.
I took credit for moving the line. I know we have line movers in this community.
Yeah.
I moved the Yambag line because all it takes is like a $10 bet, and they're like, "Whoa!" Like serious action coming on this prop. So, but I love
We should lobby. We should lobby the commission. We should lobby the commissions and force the books to add no contest to that, because that's really frustrating. It should be point deduction / no contest should be the bet. Now it won't be plus 2,000. Make it, I don't know, plus 1,500. But watching all those eye pokes, nut shots turn into a no contest. That's got to be frustrating.
Yeah, this was the other one. The Cachoeira, I think, was. I know BetMGM does them like way lower. DraftKings does them at 20-1, but yeah, I don't know if it was the Cachoeira Jazz the Vicious fight, but I think after the Jillian Robertson fight, they were like, I'm surprised it's even plus money anymore every time she fights. But
we have a question in the chat, a Yambag question in the chat.
I don't know, man. I feel like it's been way too long. I know that I don't want to say the last one I hit was in the summer, because that's the whole bit. But I know that the Ed Herman one was like one of my favorite ones ever. I hit it with like Negrimiano. But like you look at some of these fights and it's like now we're just getting all these like. For the record, since I've been doing this, I've hit 8 of them over a 2-year span.
What?
Yeah, I mean, I bet the thing is I'm not just betting one a card, but like early on when I first started doing shows, I hit 3 of them in the first like 6 weeks, where it was like, holy shit,
this is incredible. That's
crazy.
That's a great...
On cards, I'm going like 2 and 6. I'm like saving my bacon by hitting one.
But Gianni the Greek has got to get you on his show, man.
No, thank you. I am not interested in working with that guy. But that's all right. I don't want to bash him either. But you even saw it in like the Marcos fight where it's warning after warning after warning. Like, dude, like I believe that had that fight continued, he was getting a point deducted. That's the crappy thing. I think Marcos was 1,000,000% getting a point deducted because it impacted the round. It got to a point where like you've compromised the other guy. Like, and it's second violation. I don't care if it's unintentional. That's where you have to do it. Once you've completely compromised the guy to swing the round, I think you have to take it. But yeah, I mean, look, it's weird that I can hit these bets, but this is like how I am in like all sports, man. I can hit a plus 900, but I can't hit like a minus 150. Like, this is just the story of my life with betting. Like, dude, like it's the way it works. But we have made it to the end of the show. Dude, chat was popping all morning. Like, I don't think it was me. I think
Thursday morning. Yeah, everyone took a long coffee break.
The only other time I've done this show in the morning was with Mike's MMA Packs. Nice fireside chat with my friend Michael.
No, and of course, I want to thank you for making it a Thursday morning, because that's the only time. No, I think we talked about it and we decided maybe it's better to do it when we have the YouTube space to ourselves. There's a lot of competing shows on a Wednesday night. So plus I have a 13-hour time difference. You're in Philly, right? You're in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Burbs.
All right.
And Twitter jail, but also Philly.
And we're trying to get you out. We're working on it.
I
got my people. We've got our people. We're talking to Elon. We're seeing what we can do.
I think the only way this ends is that Elon's the guest. You may as well have the prisoner and his jailer to do a show. And I'd be like, just guess props, dude. And then he's going to go like 5 for 5. Once he hears about the Yambag special, he's like, okay, so now you're like permanently never banned from Twitter, because that's his kind of highbrow comedy, is talking about shots to the sack. As we know, Elon like just discovered memes, so like he loves that shit. But George, I want to thank you very much for taking almost
my pleasure, bro.
Day. Chat, you guys are popping. I really appreciate it. George, tell the people where you are, where they can find you. Trust me when I say it, it's going to be a lot easier than it's usually been.
You can find me on X. My handle's there, Gio Gennaro. I also have a YouTube channel, and it's called Narrative Nation MMA. And what I do is I create playlists. That's my MMA only channel. And what I'm working on these days is I create playlists of all the interviews. So when I hit play, I can listen to like 20 interviews in a row. And as new ones pop up on my feed, the algorithm finds them. I just add them. So I have an entire folder for UFC 298, 299, 300, et cetera, et cetera. So if you guys want to know where I get the narratives from, that's the place to go. And you can always find me on Twitter, Gio Gennaro. Feel free to add me, hit me up. Always happy to chop it up with the people.
All right. Well, yeah, you can find me later tonight on this very channel, midnight Thursdays, with my partner Monk Maddox, doing the happy hour.
Please keep the tire iron. Keep the tire iron in the trunk, okay? Do not bring out the tire iron. I want to have a theory, though. I have a theory. If you had said, Monk, I'm going to get you with a cheese grater, you'd still have your Twitter. But tire iron, that's a level, that's a bridge too far, my friend.
Now, honestly, as like an old school like wrestling fan, I think a cheese grater is a far more effective weapon, but I think that's for probably a different time. We'll do the DFS breakdown later, the full betting breakdown at the midnight show. And I'll go over, I'll just update the people a little more later about like what's going on, what my plan is. I got some, the deranged mind is working through some things, but
all right, man, we got your back.
He just said he hasn't seen it. Dude, George, I hit a parlay, no joke, with 2 soccer players to score on Saturday. Phil Titz, who plays for Augsburg, and Jizz Hornkamp, who plays for Heracles.
I didn't believe you. I thought you were kidding. That really happened. These people really exist.
Dude, and here's the crazy part. I'm talking to Brady earlier in the week, and I posted, I'm like, oh, well, if you really want to make money, and Monk and my buddy Tommy can vouch for this too. I had a 3-leg parlay that I built that paid, if you bet 10,000 on it, it paid 34 million. Oof. It was Tits to score, Jizz to score, and Hermanson round 5. And I'm like talking to Brady, like I'm texting him, and I'm like, dude, Hermanson round 5 is so live right now. Like, this is crazy. So I'm like, man, if that would have hit, because I didn't bet it. I'm like, I was like fucking around. I'm like, dude, if that would have hit, I'd never forgiven myself. I did bet the Just Hits parlay though, so I'm very happy that of anything that came good this weekend that I can.
That is a Narrative Nation parlay.
As again, my friend Mike's MMA Picks would say, it's going on my fridge. It is definitely a fridge-worthy play. But guys in the chat, hope to see you at midnight. Good luck to all you guys in your bets this weekend. George, thank you very much. And
thanks for having me, bro.
I don't know when I'll be back doing the show. I've been doing it for pay-per-view, so we'll see. I might do it next week. I may.
99.
You never know. So you just better put alerts on for the MMA channel. Take care,
guys. Sounds good, brother. Take it easy.
Bye.